Good evening, tubers. Madam Roy back once again. Well, so many of you have asked me to do another one of these week-long live stream events, and you ask and you shall receive. Sorry I was a little bit late. My browser is still being very finicky. Apparently, Firefox and Chrome have added content blocking, and that's not playing well with YouTube's live streaming service. So I kind of have to do a few tweaks to get this working, but we are here. Let's see, how is everybody doing tonight? Been okay. Alien Tech, Cameron Cloud, good mate. The weather good today here in New Zealand. Excellent. Okay, so before we really get started, I wanted to give a little thing about 9/11 because it seems like everybody is giving stories about where they were, what they were doing when 9/11 occurred. The same thing like in my parents' generation it was with JFK. But honestly, my story really isn't all that interesting. When 9/11 occurred, I was just starting college. And believe it or not, I actually had that day off. So I was sleeping in. And I'll never forget, it was about 10 a.m. that I woke up because I had classes late that night before, September 10th, 2001. And I was just sleeping in. I woke up, and the first thing I did back then when I woke up is I usually turned the TV on to maybe watch a cartoon or two. Back then, I think I was into the Tom and Jerry kids and a few other ones. Of course, Alvin and the Chipmunks. So I watched about a half an hour of, I think that day it was Tom and Jerry Kids that was on. And then I said, I better turn to some news, see what's going on in the world. So we're talking about 10:30 now, and then there it was. I was watching Fox News, and they were talking about how the planes had hit the towers. At that point, both planes had actually hit, and I think the one tower was just getting ready to collapse at that point. And I'll never forget that I was just in shock. I mean, I was looking at the TV, and it was almost like I was looking at, I was almost like I was looking at a video game. Like, I just couldn't believe what was happening. And I remember for days after, I think as a nation, we were all in shock. We couldn't believe what had just occurred. So that is really my story, and I'm sorry that isn't any better than that, but that's what actually happened. So if you guys have other better stories than that, or maybe worse stories, you're welcome to share it here, but I don't want that to be the whole mood of this particular live stream. Cameron Cloud, hey Matt, my mate is currently over in the U.S. in Yosemite on holiday, has a fan of your vlog, so he went Dollar Tree. Yeah, you guys know I'm a big Dollar Tree fan. As a matter of fact, I have some food reviews in the works, but they're going to have to be put on hold right now because I'm trying to get the few pounds that I gained when I was on vacation off. So hopefully those will come in the next few weeks. Not exactly sure yet. I-386, back then I had dial-up, could not get online for a few days because I guess so many people were online. Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. I never really thought much about it. We were still on dial-up in 2001. We didn't get internet until 2003. I think we got high-speed internet. Excuse me, sorry. But I didn't go online that much back then. That was after Napster had been taken down, so I wasn't going online all the time and downloading. Downloading ones and zeros. Yeah, downloading ones and zeros. We'll say that. So I just never really went online that much. Sloth asks, like that name by the way, do you have any tips for a beginner reseller? It's a very good question. You really need to find what you're interested in, and when I mean that is whatever your passions are. Like in my case, It's electronic, so anything computer related, VCRs, DVD players, even vintage stereo equipment. I am very knowledgeable about that. So that's what I usually buy. And you want to look out at garage sales, yard sales, whatever you call them, thrift stores, auctions. Although auctions, I usually tell people you have to be very careful because a lot of times you'll get what they call that auction fever, and you'll wind up paying a lot more than you should for items. So your best bet at getting items to resell are at things like garage sales and thrift stores. Though thrift stores too, you do have to be careful. You have to know what you're buying. A really good app that I use is actually, I believe it's put out by Amazon. It's called What's It Worth? And it looks like that. And basically what you can do is you can click this little thing here and use your camera to scan the barcode. Right now you're seeing me, of course, but you can actually use the camera on your phone to scan the barcode of the item if it has one, and it'll let you know what it's selling for online. So there are a few tips. Hopefully it'll help you out there. But again, just start small. Don't think that you need to don't think that you need to buy everything and that you're going to be able to resell it at a higher price. You have to start small, and you got to see what is selling in your particular area. Eric Burnhammer's, he's got a 9/11 story. Said, I was in the weight room at the high school on the leg press machine. They yelled for me to come over. I thought I was getting yelled at for having the machine maxed out again. Yeah, a little boastful there, but that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, I mean, we all have our own stories, and like I said, I'll never forget that day. It was something that will always stay in my heart because you look at all the people there that lost their lives, not just on that day in the tower, but years later. A lot of the first responders, they they wound up getting cancer and getting all these other health effects from inhaling all those fumes. So you got to remember, this is something that's touched many, many, many lives, and I think about it more than I probably should, but it's something that had happened. I don't think we should forget it, but we do need to move on as a society for sure. Matt, did you go to the Grid computer store? Saw some i5s for parts. No, I haven't. I've been extremely busy since I got back home. I have a lot of computers that are in the works right now being refurbished. If you guys haven't seen the vlogs and the live streams that I did up in New York, you probably don't know that I picked up a load of about 40 Dell Optiplex computers, and I'll show you one. It's sitting right over there. It's actually getting worked on at the moment. I'm just finishing up the Windows installation on that one. So honestly, I just don't have any time right now to get new product in. I mean, if I find a really good deal on higher end computers, yeah, I'll definitely try to purchase them. But I have my work cut out for me right now, just trying to get through these computers. MB joining from my hotel room in Yosemite, loving my USA holiday. That's awesome. I'd love to go abroad. In my life, I've only ever been to Canada, and that's just because that's where my dad was from originally. But I've never been outside of Canada and the continental United States. One of my absolute favorite places I've always wanted to visit is the UK, in other words, England. And I'm hoping to get there someday. It may not be until I'm a little bit older, but we'll have to see what happens. Hey, if anybody out there wants to sponsor a trip to England, I can guarantee you some really good live streams and some really good footage. Oh, that's cool. Cameron Cloud said, if you come to New Zealand, I can give you a tour. Yeah, it's always a possibility. Again, it's something that I would have to save up for, or I'd have to get a sponsorship to do something like that. I didn't know that either. Apparently, I386 says 9/11 had Pearl Harbor beaten deaths, but not by much. Pearl Harbor was like the 9/11 of that era. And actually, when 9/11 first happened, in the days after, they were calling it the second Pearl Harbor, and then of course it just became 9/11. Eric Brunhammer says, I'm at a point where I'm not going to take in any more machines with less than i3 processors. I have too many older machines here too. Yeah, I do too. Actually, all of those computers that I picked up when I was in New York, they're all Core 2 Duos. But I will tell you this about the older machines. At least in this case, they're all Dell Optiplex 760s, 780s, and they all have some form of higher end Core 2. Most of them are the E8400s, some are the E7400s, but they're all running at I think the 7400s run at 2.93 gigahertz and the E8400s run at 3 gigahertz. And believe it or not, they are still very capable machines. Now, what I'm doing is like that computer over there, I'm refurbishing that, loading Windows 10 Office on there, pairing it with a keyboard monitor, keyboard, mouse, and monitor, and I'm selling those for $100 a piece. And at that price point, somebody's going to get a really good, reliable computer that still has many, many years of life left in it, and I'm still making a decent profit. So yes, ideally, I would like to just stick with the newer I series systems, i3s, i5s, i7s, if I can find them. And I do have quite a few of those systems left and still up for sale. But these Core 2 Duos are still very much passed over because people just put them to the side as they're too old to be used for anything meaningful anymore, and that's just not true. I mean, you can still use Core 2 Duo systems for a lot. Watching YouTube videos, basic word processing, even basic video editing. Believe it or not, I actually still have a Core 2 Duo system. It's actually one of those with the E8400 that I still can do video editing on in a pinch. Now, I'm not going to be doing anything crazy like 4K video rendering, but anything up to 1080p, it's a little on the slow side, but it gets the job done. That's a good point. Eric Brunhammer says that they are good systems, but people look at Google and see that they're 10 years old and they pass them over. Yeah, people, it's funny. When I have people asking about computers that are for sale, usually the second or third question they ask is, how old is it? And it's hard to give them an answer because the computers that I have refurbished, yeah, the system itself may have been built in 2011 or 2012, but I've replaced the hard drive, the memory, the video card. I've pretty much put everything new in there except the motherboard. So you can tell them, yeah, the base system is from 2011, but the hard drive might be new, the memory is newer than that. See, it's kind of a dumb question when you think about it, but I get why people ask it, because there are those people out there on Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace that are selling old computers like that have not been refurbished. And let's face it, I mean, if you haven't gone through a system, checked it for issues, made sure that the hardware is 100% ready to go, then chances are you're going to get a system that's not going to last very long. Cameron Cloud, Matt, can we get a shout out for Mr. Jimmy? His mom has grounded him. She found he had been looking up blank blank on the family PC. That's fun. Yeah, well, I know. I guess we got to laugh at some things, right? But yeah, I'll give him a shout out, Mr. Jimmy. How do you feel about the Pentium G630 from 2011? It's a good processor. Again, it's one of the lower end, just above like the Celeron CPU. So you're not going to be doing a lot of high end video editing or really any kind of gaming with that. But again, for basic use like a Core 2 Duo, they're decent. They're decent. Cameron, don't make me put you in timeout. I'll do it. You know I'll do it. Eric goes, when I do these machines, I completely clean them. New thermal paste, new hard drive, and fresh install of Windows. I agree with everything there, with the possible exception of the thermal paste. Believe it or not, it is a common misconception that all thermal paste goes bad. And a great example of that are these Dell Optiplex series computers. You got to remember, these computers were originally sold to businesses, so they had to be designed for the long haul. And again, believe it or not, I'll give you a great example, like that Dell Optiplex 760. I was upgrading the CPU in one the other day, took it apart, took the CPU heat sink and the shroud off, and believe it or not, that original thermal paste that was on there was still in good shape. Now, the other side of that is if you have a consumer grade system that's of the same age, then yes, in that case, you definitely want to go ahead and replace the thermal paste because chances are that will have perished. I believe on the Dell Optiplexes from that time period, they were using something like Arctic Silver 2, maybe Arctic Silver 3. I'm not sure if that had actually come out yet, but very high-end thermal paste. And the bad part is if you replace the thermal paste with something that's lower end, then chances are they're actually going to have more problems than if you just left it alone. So, well, I agree with most of what Eric said, and don't hate on me for this. I don't always replace the thermal paste. Mike Paradin, hey Matt, I made it to the live stream. Awesome, nice to see you here. Well, yeah, that's a given. If you do pull the heat sink off to either clean it or put a new processor in, then yes, you must replace thermal paste because you will have broken that bond that the thermal paste had between the CPU and the heat sink. So yes, if you do have to take it off, then by all means you have to replace it. But give an example, like for that computer right there, the Dell Optiplex 760 I'm working on right now. The temperatures are fine. It's not running hot or anything like that. I'm not upgrading the CPU, so chances are I will not be replacing the thermal paste in that, even though that computer is pushing 9 years old. I386 goes, my HP from 2010 has never had new thermal. Again, perfect example. It just depends on how good a quality that thermal paste was to begin with. Okay, I'm surprised nobody remarked on this, but I've had a lot of people ask me to wear this shirt when I'm live streaming. This is my Just One More Episode. I call this my Netflix shirt, even though it's not really, I don't believe it was actually marketed by Netflix, but you could see that the font is the same that you would find on Netflix, basically. So that's why I call it that. And you could tell that's just what the creator of the shirt was going for. Now, changing gears here a little bit, I did want to give you guys an update on my fitness slash lifestyle change. Most of you know that I have gained a couple of pounds back on the trip. Well, I'm happy to tell you that at this point, I have worked that off. So I'm basically back to the 207 to 208 pound range, which is where I was when I basically went up to New York, about almost 2 weeks ago now. My ultimate goal has not changed since the last time I said it. My ultimate goal is 200 pounds. If I get down to 198, 199, that's fine. I'll take that, of course. But once I get to 200 pounds, I'm going to stop. I might have a lot of reasons for that. One being for my height, that's about where I need to be, and for my build. And at this point, I actually feel my body is starting to feed on the muscle instead of the fat. And that's something you have to be very careful about. After a person has lost a considerable amount of weight, like I have, there is a point where your body is going to say, that's it. We don't have any more fat to burn. Now we're going to go ahead and start moving to the muscle. And at that point, you got to realize, okay, that means I need to stop losing weight and focus more on maintaining. Because you honestly, you don't want to be burning off muscle. As you burn muscle off, then your body's going to go into what's called starvation mode. And then, believe it or not, you can actually start gaining weight again because you're going to be burning off muscle. Your body's going to start storing fat again when it goes into starvation mode. So there's kind of like a fine line between the two. But that's just my latest update on the health and fitness side of this particular live stream. I know that a lot of you guys enjoy that. Some of you don't. In this case, I actually got a few more viewers that seem to like that. Mark Covington's here. Hey, Mark. He asks, how much would you charge me to have the motherboard, 2 CD DVD burner drives, 3-inch floppy drive, 5-inch floppy drive to one of your I-cores, but also add a 2 terabyte SSD and a card reader drive? Well, that's a lot of requests there. If it's possible, I could probably add, I know I can add the 3.5-inch. I know I can add the 2 DVD burners. That's no problem. The 2 terabyte SSD, that would cost quite a bit. A 2 terabyte SSD is going to run you about $300 to $400, and then the 5-inch floppy would be a little tricky because most computer cases don't have the ability to install those. Probably what you would have to do is get an external one, and I've seen them on eBay before. They're not that expensive, but I can talk to you more about that after the live stream. Nick Roberts says, what sucks is how some people eat and eat fatty or bad food and never gain fat or even slightly overweight. And others have a burger and maybe a slice of cake and get really fat. Yeah, that's like a lot of people will say, oh, I want to eat this piece of carrot cake, but it will go right to my hips or my thighs or my gut. It all has to do with genetics and basically genetics, honestly, and that's what controls your metabolism. Some people have very, very high metabolisms. Those are the people that can eat anything they want and not gain weight. And then other people like me who tend to have slower metabolisms, that if we eat the wrong things too often, we will gain weight. But I will tell you this, there is an upside to that. Not everybody who is at a healthy weight is healthy, just like not everybody who is overweight is unhealthy. I consider myself at this point still overweight. My body fat, or my BMI, is still in the overweight category, about 26.5%. But I am more physically fit than most people that have a normal body mass index. See, it just depends on your body type and how you are built. Somebody like me, who is large frame by nature, may never get into what they would consider a normal BMI. But that doesn't mean that we're not healthy. And it's the same thing for you guys out there, you guys and gals. You may be every bit as healthy as I am, but still considered overweight by the BMI calculator or the BMI scale, whatever you want to call it. Eric Burnhammer goes, I work with a skinny dude who eats at McDonald's multiple times a day during his shift. I work right next to McDonald's. That would have been a temptation back in the day. I'll tell you guys a true story, and this is not something that I'm proud of. Before I did the lifestyle change, I would think nothing of going to McDonald's for breakfast, getting a steak, egg, and cheese bagel, 2 breakfast burritos, an orange juice or a coffee, and a hash brown. And that right there is enough fat for anybody for 2 or 3 days. But I'm not done. I would go back home. So this would maybe be around 9 o'clock because I was lazy. I would sleep in most of the morning. Go back home, maybe get some work done, and then about 12:30, 1 o'clock, when lunchtime rolled around, I would go drive back to my local McDonald's, and I would get 2 double cheeseburgers, or McDoubles, I think they were called at the time, and probably a large fry and a humongous Coke. And I'm not talking about the large Cokes you get at most restaurants. We're talking about like the Route 44 sized, Sonic sized Cokes. Then I would go home, have a few more snacks. Usually it'd be maybe what was it? What did I eat back then? Pretzels. I was really big into pretzels, and I maybe have like a tub of popcorn. And then for dinner, I'd have whatever mom was cooking, and usually it was something high fat, like this meal that my mom used to cook called gush. And it sounds really gross, but it actually tastes really good. And what it is ground beef with onions and lots of beef gravy, and you would actually simmer it up, kind of like the way you would make taco meat, and then you would put it over mashed potatoes. And I would have 2 or 3 helpings of that, and then I'd have a big dessert, usually a piece of cake or something. So if I added all that up, that was probably every bit of 4,000 to 5,000 calories. And you got to remember, I wasn't exercising back then, so you really got to take in consideration the drastic change I made to my life. And the reason I'm telling you this is you can do it. If somebody like me, who was so set in his ways, hated to exercise, can get healthy and physically fit, you can do it too. Believe me, you can. Sloth goes, I'm 305 at the moment, and I'm struggling with my lifestyle change. I eat a lot when I'm bored. Okay. I can help you with that, because I did the same thing. I was an emotional eater. I was the person that, when he couldn't figure out anything else to do, aka being bored, would go down to the kitchen and stand in front of the refrigerator and make a sandwich and eat other things out of the refrigerator when I was making that sandwich. You have to put that emotional eating, that emotional energy, into other things. In my case, it's into exercise. I am a fitness junkie at the moment. But you have to start off slow, like I did. I mean, I walk. I walk. I kid you not. Today I'm at 17,815 steps. You don't have to believe me. You can actually see that on my Fitbit. Plus, I went on a 10-mile bike ride. So, but I didn't start that way. You know, when I started this journey, I was lucky to walk maybe a mile a day. Heck, I couldn't walk half a mile before I got winded. But if you start slowly and then build up, you can get to the point where you can get that much exercise in. And you don't have to do that much exercise for the rest of your life. You might want to, because that might become your thing. But your thing can be anything. It can be a hobby, wood burning. It can be, you're a guy, so I'm assuming, so it probably wouldn't be something like crocheting, but it could be woodworking. It could be mechanical work. Maybe you can get in, maybe if you like cars, get into doing car repair. You got to take that energy that you use for eating, and put it somewhere else. And that's the only way you're going to be successful on the lifestyle change. Sloth asks, did you have ankle pains while walking? I didn't have ankle pains. I was actually very lucky. As heavy as I was, I did not really have a lot of joint pain, other than some issues with my lower back occasionally. But if ankle pain is a problem for you, you can actually get ankle braces. They're very, very prevalent. Just go to your local medical surplus or medical supply store and tell them the problem that you're having, and I can almost guarantee they'll have something they can give you that you can use, hopefully until you lose a little bit of weight. And then once you get some of that weight off, then you should be fine. I remember when I started this journey, I was heavier than you. I was 330 pounds. And again, my back was very tight, but I had to push through it. I knew that that was the only way I could get healthy. And I believe it was when I hit under 280 pounds for me that a lot of that pain went away. And mainly that was just because I wasn't carrying around all that extra weight. And if you're carrying it in your midsection, in other words, your gut, that is where you're going to feel it usually in your lower back, legs, and it could be ankles, knees. But what again? Just follow those few steps that I mentioned here, and hopefully you'll be successful. And you can always send me a personal message, and I'll do my best to answer any questions that you might have. Sonic Wang goes, today I've only walked to the show, then kitchen to make coffee and back to my computer. You'll have off days. Believe me, I've had off days. The only thing I could tell you to do is if you're starting your lifestyle journey, stagger it. Have one day that you do your exercises, one day off. So one day on, one day off. And if you start doing it that way, you can build up and eventually you'll want to exercise every day. Sloth goes, I walk to Dollar Tree a few times a week. It's about 1 mile away. That's not bad. I mean, if you're just starting out, that is not bad at all. And then, after a few weeks, maybe a month, you build up to 2 miles, then build up to 3 miles. Heck, if you like going to Dollar Tree, if that's your thing, purposely walk to Dollar Tree, buy one thing you need, forget the other thing, go back home and say, oh no, I forgot that other thing I need. That'll make you walk back there again. I mean, that's perfect, isn't it? Right? Sonic Wang asks, what did you have for dinner? Tonight I had eggplant parmesan with fresh grated parmesan cheese on top. And that's all. Now, some nights I'll have something lighter. Like usually I'll stagger it. One night I'll have like a regular dinner. The next night I'll go to something like oatmeal, or lately I've been really into farina, which is kind of like a hot wheat cereal. Sometimes I'll have that for breakfast and dinner, and then I'll have my big meal for lunch. Eric Berneber goes, I never thought this would happen, but on the rare occasion that I get a soda for the flavor, I find myself missing water. I'm not surprised. I used to like sodas. I wasn't in love with sodas, but I did like drinking soda. Now I don't even miss it. A matter of fact, when I was on the trip up in New York, I purposely bought a root beer because that used to be my favorite soda to drink when I used to drink soda. I couldn't even drink a quarter of it because it was too sweet. I took a few sips and threw the rest out. Sloth goes, can't be doing two walks like that. Ha ha. Eventually you will, my friend. Eventually you will build up to that. I can almost guarantee you that. Eric goes, I got a Mountain Dew earlier today with lunch, and it took a long time to drink because I kept drinking the water. Nothing wrong with that. I'm telling you, you will lose the taste for sweet things, i.e., soft drinks, junk food like Twinkies, Ho-Hos, Ding Dongs, because the less of the processed sugar you put in your body and the more of the natural sugar, the less your body craves the junk. You have to train your body to like the food that's healthier for you. I mean, to give you a great example, in the mornings, right now at least, when I'm eating my farina, which again is like a hot wheat cereal, you can look it up online, it'll tell you what it is. Similar to grits. What I usually do is I put a little bit of salt and pepper, butter, and honey in it. Now that might sound like a lot of additives, but when you think about it, Everything there is natural. Salt is natural, pepper is natural, butter is natural, and I use, in my case, I use wildflower honey, which is kind of like a medium honey. You have the light honey, the medium, and then the dark or the bold honey. I use the wildflower. And I eat a banana, and I have my coffee. And even with my coffee, I don't use white granulated sugar. I actually use sugar in the raw, which is actually pure cane sugar. And that in and of itself has helped me to lose the weight. Again, you don't have to deny yourself. That's the beauty of it. Your body, you will still enjoy eating the sweet stuff. You just need to move to the healthier, the more natural sweeteners, not all this heavily processed granulated sugar with high fructose corn syrup. That's the stuff that is going to add weight onto you, and literally is called liquid diabetes, because that's really what it is. I mean, it's stuff that honestly nobody should have in their diets. Eric goes, "You're making me want that root beer we got in Amish County. It was homemade root beer sweetened with honey instead of sugar. Drink it. I would. If it's got natural sweeteners in there like that, I would go for it. As a matter of fact, I don't even buy Heinz ketchup anymore, or even the Berman's ketchup that Aldi has, because Berman's is really Heinz and vice versa. The reason is, even though I like Heinz ketchup, it is sweetened with, anybody? High fructose corn syrup. So what I'm doing now is I'm buying a natural ketchup. I believe it's put out by Hunt's or something. I'm not sure. I'd have to get the bottle. But anyway, it is sweetened with honey. And it tastes, to me, every bit as good. Maybe not quite as good as Heinz, because I really did like Heinz ketchup. But the health benefits, to me, outweigh the little difference in the taste. Your thoughts on brown sugar, Nick Roberts. Brown sugar can be good, but you have to be careful. There are two kinds of brown sugar. There is brown sugar that is brown because they've added molasses to it, and it's really just white granulated sugar. And then there's brown sugar that is brown because it's made from pure cane sugar, and sometimes they'll add a little bit of molasses just to make it a little darker. You want the latter. You want the brown sugar that is made from cane sugar, not the brown sugar that is made from white granulated sugar. Just be careful. But if you get the good quality brown sugar, which you can get at Aldi, Aldi sells it at a really good price, then yes, it is good for you for the most part. But I want to be careful here, because I'm not telling you to go out and eat as much sugar as you want. You still have to be careful. It's everything in moderation. Again, a perfect example, I eat a lot of sweet things for breakfast. So I have the bananas, the honey, the farina, and all that stuff. So for lunch, I go the opposite. I'll actually have usually a chicken salad sandwich on sprouted, whole grain sprouted bread. Very, very good bread that I get from Aldi. It's a little expensive, but it's worth it. And I'll usually have my 15 bean soup. So I'm going from something that is high in sugar and carbs to something that is low on sugar and medium in carbs. Now, if you are trying to jumpstart your lifestyle change, I would suggest maybe cutting out the bread and just eating the chicken salad on its own with something like the 15 bean soup. That would be a great way to balance out your diet and start your weight loss. Eric goes, Berman's is not. I can prove it. Okay, prove it. Absolutely. You prove me wrong, but I'm telling you, I've done taste test comparisons between Berman's ketchup and Heinz ketchup, not just with me, but with other members of the family, and we cannot tell the difference. So if it isn't Heinz, it's a darn good facsimile of it. Nick Roberts said, I just had chicken pot pie for lunch. Good tasting, but very high in fat. You got to be careful with that. Well, you're getting your vegetables. Yeah, you are getting your vegetables, and chicken in and of itself is lean. But you got the gravy, which is full of fat, And generally, when you buy, unless you make them yourself, when you buy chicken pot pies, they're filled with sodium, salt, monosodium glutamate, pretty much all your bad sodium. So you really got to watch it. But hey, once in a while, nothing wrong with that. Okay, here we go. I work for Cheltenham House, where they made all these ketchup. It is made with organic tomato paste and organic sugar. I have personally thrown the bag of sugar into the batch. Excuse me. Be right back. Okay. I just want to make sure that I'm not crazy here because I could be wrong, but I have here a 38-ounce bottle of Berman's tomato ketchup. Berman's is the Aldi generic brand. And I will show you the ingredients. Eric, you're going to hate me for this one because I'm about to prove you wrong here. I'm going to read the ingredients. We have tomato puree, water, tomato paste, and right after that is the high fructose corn syrup. And again, you don't have to take my word for it. Hopefully you guys can read that if my camera will focus. I'll probably have to point to it. Let me see. There you go. I know it's backwards, but it's right there. High fructose corn syrup. Okay. Well, Eric, I hope you're right. I just know what the bottle said because I literally check everything now for high fructose corn syrup. And the bottle of this oldie Berman's ketchup does say high fructose corn syrup. But I'll digress on that point. You know, if you say you worked there and you saw the way they manufactured it, maybe the label is wrong, but also you got to think about it this way too. He just said it. They could have changed it in 3 years. And then again, that's possible. But I will tell you that the Berman's tomato ketchup, at least this particular rendition of it, tastes just like Heinz. Chris Bartlett asked, what is organic sugar or organic brown sugar? Organic sugar would be something like pure cane sugar that is grown in a field where they don't use any pesticides or anything like that. But again, you have to watch that too because there are so many companies out there that are labeling food organic that really isn't organic. So you do have to watch it. If you're trying to eat organic only food, you need to make sure that you're getting it from a reputable company. Whole Foods, Aldi, I would probably trust. Trader Joe's. But if you're going to like Joe Schmo's, Blot or Guado somewhere, and they have a little tiny section that says all this food's organic, that I would probably question. Was it Bordega? Bordega, I think they call it. Eric goes, it used to be the same exact bottle sold at Whole Foods. I'm not surprised. If you guys ever watch Eric's channel, he kind of explained it, I think, in a video a while back about how these manufacturers of food products pretty much use the same product with different labels on it. And that's all I'm going to say about that because I don't want to put words into your mouth, Eric, but I found that an eye-opener. Let's put it that way. I-36, I wonder if the Kroger Big K makes for other stores, not Walmart, but maybe some dollar stores, because they said the plan is huge. They do. As a matter of fact, we had a regional store here called Farm Fresh, which is now defunct, and they used to carry Big K products. And there is a little store in Greene, New York, where I just left, called Great American, and they also carry Big K products as well. So yes, you're correct in that. It's not just Kroger. They supply other stores as well. Robert Jones says, I've changed from a loaf of bread to flax burrito bread. It's interesting. I've never heard of burrito bread. I know what flax is, and to be perfectly honest with you, that is one healthy food I can't stand. True story. When I was in Harris Teeter the other day to pick up some medication, as I was checking out, I went by the self checkout registers, and they had that table where they put the stuff that's 50% off, and they had a bottle of flaxseed oil. And I said to myself, you know what? Let me get this. I'll go ahead and put it into my oatmeal in the morning or my farina, and it'll help me be even a little bit more healthy, because flaxseed, believe it or not, seed itself, the oil, all of that is very, very good, not only for your digestion, but it supposedly helps prevent you from getting cancer and stuff. Well, to make a long story short, I tried it and I could not stand the taste. Even at half the recommended amount, I just didn't like the taste of the oil. So apparently that's one healthy food I don't really care for. Mark Covington says, didn't Kroger buy out Farm Fresh? It's kind of weird because I believe that it was part of the buyout, but so was Harris Teeter. Because our new Harris Teeter, actually our Harris Teeter moved from its old location to where the Farm Fresh used to be. So it's kind of weird the way that is. Kroger owns Harris Teeter, or vice versa. I can't remember which. So yeah, technically, I guess they both bought out Farm Fresh. I'm so sorry, guys. I don't know why my mouth's so dry tonight. Flat burrito wraps. I'll have to look that up. Let me see. Yeah, I might try that. If it doesn't have any flaxseed oil in it, then yeah, I'd be okay with that. The flat bread, any kind of flat bread, is going to be a lot better for you because you're not getting as many carbs in that. You're getting, could be upwards of 60 to 70% less carbs in flatbread versus your regular yeast bread. You also get something like matzo bread, which is actually really, really good. I made a matzo pizza once, and it wasn't on purpose. It was mainly because I forgot to put the yeast in the pizza dough, but it turned out really good. The crust was really thin, but still tasted really good. 47 minutes, 9 watchers, 14 likes. Let me see if I missed anybody's questions or comments here. Oh, here we go. Mark Covington. On my very next happy birthday, I think of myself as a bottle of Heinz 57 steak sauce. I assume you're going to be 57. And a bottle of Heinz ketchup. What do you think about that? That's interesting. I honestly, I've only had Heinz 57 steak sauce a couple of times, and I actually really like it. I prefer it over A1. A1 is just way too bold for me. A bottle of Heinz ketchup. That's funny. We've got 9 people here. So, anybody else have a topic that they want to bring up? I know I kind of tend to monopolize these, and I apologize. So, let's see what everybody else wants to talk about. Matt, have you tried unleavened bread? I have no idea what that is. I'm not even sure I'm pronouncing that right. Let me look that up. Unleavened bread is any wide variety of bread that is not prepared with rising agents. So yeah, it's like matzah. Yeah, it's basically yeastless bread, and that's what it says here. Not prepared with rising agents such as yeast. Generally flatbreads, but not all flatbreads are unleavened. I'm sorry, I just can't pronounce that. But things are, I guess, such as tortilla and rolla are staple foods. I mean, it's something that I would probably consider eating. Yeah, you never know. What is your favorite drink? I love maple water. I've never heard of maple water. I mean, I do like maple syrup, so it's probably something I would like. My favorite drink, coffee. Any type of coffee. Generally not flavored coffees though. Like I don't like the hazelnut or the vanilla flavored coffees, but I like anything from light roast to medium roast to bold roast, though I tend to favor things like the McCafe medium roast or the medium bold roast. I actually got a whole bunch of these medium bold roasted McCafe K cups. They're the Winter Wonderland special editions. And I also like 8 o'clock coffee, which is also kind of a medium roast coffee. Eric Brunhammer, my new distributor just came in. Hopefully, Sunday I will throw the truck back together and hopefully it will run again. LOL. I'm sure it will. That thing is a beast. And he's referring to his, I think it's his red S10. Love those. I'm telling you, they are diehards. They weren't my favorite vehicles aesthetically. Back in that generation, I actually preferred the look of the Ford Rangers, but for durability, I would have to say the S10s all the way. Reviews for News Noob said pumpkin spice latte is the worst. I've tried it. I have to totally agree with you. I like pumpkin spice, but I don't like it as a coffee. I've had pumpkin spice pie, which I absolutely love. I've had pumpkin spice torts, if you know what a tort is. I like that, but I do not like pumpkin spice. I'm not just going to say latte, but in any form of coffee. Again, I'm not really a big flavored coffee fan. Chris Bartlett goes, the Ford Ranger is very popular over here in Australia. It's interesting. I didn't know that. I know that you have a lot of Fords over there, but I thought they were different than the ones that we had. Matter of fact, I know you guys have a lot of models over there that we never got on this side. Though I think you guys back in the 70s had something that was like our Ford Maverick. But again, it wasn't called that over there. They had different names for different countries. You know, I'm not a big Ford. I'm not a brand loyal person. I've owned Fords, I've owned Chevys. In other words, I've owned GM products, I've owned Ford products. I've had good luck with both, though I would have to say that out of the two, I probably do favor General Motors just slightly over Ford because I absolutely love my Buicks. I've had two Buick LeSabres, the 2003 and the 2000, and with very few exceptions, they're almost the perfect vehicles. They are extremely inexpensive to buy. I mean, I'm talking, I got mine a year ago, almost a year ago now. Wow, almost a year ago now for $1,500. And I have put little to nothing into that other than maintenance work. I will have to put tires on it this winter, but I mean, that's kind of a given. This is all kind of upkeep that you have to do with any car. So that's one reason I do favor General Motors products over Ford. And what tipped the scales for me were those Buicks. I even liked them better, honestly, than the Lincoln Town cars. I do like Lincoln Town cars. After those Buick LeSabres for reliability, you just can't beat them. Eric Brenneman goes, I always went Ford for cars and General Motors for trucks. Okay. Chris Bartlett, I'm a Holden man. I like GMH, same company, but it's got no more in Australia. They are made somewhere else. Again, I know you guys have a lot of vehicles over there that I've never heard of, and I have never heard of a Holden. I-386, 75 Ford Ranger or 75 Ford F-150. Believe it or not, the Ford Ranger back in the 70s, a lot of people don't know this, was not the same as the Ford Ranger from the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. It was actually like a variant of the F-150. I think it might have actually been an F-100, if I'm not mistaken. But it was actually like a Ford F-Series with the Ranger package. And yeah, they were pretty cool. The Ranger package I always liked because I remember the people around here that had them. A lot of the Ranger packages had that little storage cubby on both sides that you could open up and store like your tools in. Though up in New York, if you had that, chances are your storage cubby had no bottom left to it because that would be one of the first things to rot out. All right, tubers, I'm going to end the live stream here for tonight. Make sure you stay tuned tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. As always, please continue to like and subscribe. And as always, again, have a blessed day, everybody.